y'all, it's Kitty Cat coming at you with a highly contentious subject, oxalate. For those with a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones and high calcium content in the urine, you may have been asked by your physician to follow a low oxalate diet. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do just that and more. This is going to be a long one, y'all. I've got a lot to talk about. This video is going to get a little sciencey, but don't worry. At the end of it, I'm going to talk about simple, practical things that you can do to get your oxalate down. About 80% of all kidney stones are calcium oxalate stones, but, huge but, you can have a calcium oxalate stone and your 24-hour urine test may still show that your oxalate level is normal. Let me say that again, but in reverse. The oxalate content of your urine can be normal or maybe even low, and you can still get a calcium oxalate stone. That's right, oxalate is not always the cause of your kidney stones. In fact, for most people, it's not. There are tons of reasons a calcium oxalate stone can form, but if the oxalate in your urine is normal, that's not the problem for you. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna be real. If you have normal oxalate levels in your urine, this video is not for you, but I mean, you can still watch it if you want to. Sometimes I wonder if there's anybody watching. Anybody out there? Hey? Anyhow, now that I got that out of the way, if you really do need a low oxalate diet, let me start off by telling you what oxalate is and where it comes from. Oxalate can come from food sources, mostly plants, but our own bodies can also create oxalate. And this creepy thing you're looking at is a human liver. Sorry about that. For plants, oxalate has active functions that keep the plant healthy and happy, but I'm not getting into all of that because that's not what this video is about. And I never studied plant biology. Just know that plants contain oxalate for their own purposes, and we humans absorb some of that oxalate when we eat those plants. It's estimated that between 20 to 50% of our total body oxalate comes from these plant sources of oxalate. As for humans, when I say we create oxalate, really, it doesn't look like we are purposefully making it for a critical body task. I mean, it might have some purpose in the intestines, but for at least all we currently know, oxalates seem to just be the byproduct of metabolism. Mostly, but not entirely, oxalates are formed from the breakdown of protein in the liver. This liver-created or endogenous oxalate is estimated to make up about 50 to 80% of our total body oxalate. So we're eating and absorbing some oxalate from our food, and our bodies are also producing some oxalate. 90% of that extra oxalate is excreted in our urine, and the other 10% the body tends to get rid of by the GI tract. Wow, it sounds like the body has it all figured out. What could possibly go wrong? Tons of stuff, kitty cat. And the most obvious going wrong thing is going to be dietary intake. If we're eating high amounts of foods or supplements that contain a lot of oxalate in them and they're easily absorbable, yes, some oxalate is not easily absorbable. Or we are eating a lot of foods or supplements that cause our bodies to create a lot of oxalate, both of those things can be a problem. Oh no! But of course, this is not the only reason you can have high oxalate. Gastrointestinal issues are also a big factor. If you've had GI surgeries like resections or bypasses, or you have a condition that causes difficulty digesting fats, or you have an inflammatory bowel disease, this can leave you susceptible to absorbing more oxalate from your food than the average person, a lot more. If that's you, let me know in the comments. I'm considering making a separate video to discuss that topic because those folks might require a really tight oxalate restriction. They might require other dietary changes, supplements, medications, all kinds of things. I'm just not real sure how many people are interested in it. If you are, please let me know in the comments. All right, to keep us on track, high amounts of oxalate in the urine, also called hyperoxaluria, that's a big word, can be caused by eating the wrong kinds of foods. They can be caused by GI conditions, and they can also be caused by genetics. Certain hereditary conditions like primary hyperoxaluria, I'm just gonna call it PH for short, they can be to blame. These conditions can be very serious, and sometimes they aren't even diagnosed until someone has had very extensive kidney and liver damage. I'd say if you've tried all of the dietary approaches I'm about to lay out for you, and you don't have any known GI disorder, but the oxalate level in your urine continues to be high, please discuss ruling out pH with your physician. Great! So hopefully by now you understand what oxalate is, where it comes from, and why it might be in high levels in your urine. We've finally made it to dietary approaches to lowering your oxalate levels. Yes! And this thing comes in 4 simple steps. Nice! Step number 1, avoid the highest of the high oxalate foods. It's close to true to say that almost every food has oxalate in it. There is no way that you can have an oxalate-free diet, and asking you to do that would be ridiculous. It is reasonable, though, to have you avoid the highest of the high oxalate foods. The American Urological Association has recognized the Harvard Oxalate List as the gold standard in oxalate lists. And lucky for us, they just came out with an updated version of their list in 2023. So here's a condensed list of high oxalate foods. Feel free to take a screenshot. I'm going to read it out loud really quick for those that are just listening, or, some folks don't have the best vision. So starting with grains, we've got roasted buckwheat groats, which I've never had the pleasure to try. If you've eaten these, please let me know. I'm super curious.
Nope.
And then we've got bulgur, quinoa, whole wheat spaghetti, wheat berries, bran flakes, including raisin bran, shredded wheat, instant corn grits, not the corn itself though, which is interesting. We've got navy beans and baked beans, which makes sense because most baked beans are made with navy beans, refried beans, soybeans, and even miso soup, which is made from soy. Moving on to vegetables, we have spinach, which is outrageously high in oxalate, and it does not matter if it's cooked or raw. Beets, potato with the skin on it, and fast food potato french fries. Inexplicably though, homemade mashed potatoes are just fine. They're not on the high list. Is it me, or is this list a little wacky? I mean, I thought, well, maybe the oxalate is contained in the skin of the potato, but, fast food french fries don't usually have skin on it, do they? Heartbreakingly, dark chocolate is on this list, as are almonds, including almond butter. Almond milk is not on this list, but if you were to consume 2 or more cups of it, it would be. Cashews are here, and so are mixed nuts, probably because mixed nuts contains almonds and cashews. Again, that list that I just showed you is from the Harvard Food List. So if you're angry about it, you know who to direct your emails to. And anyway, I had to tell you the source of that oxalate list because oxalate is notorious for being unpredictable and unreliable.
You might go to one website and you see an oxalate food list, and then you go to the other website and the oxalate food list is totally different than the one that you just saw, and you don't know who to believe.
It's maddening. Oxalate content varies because of crop location, the time of the year, the weather, the soil content, the alignment of the moon. Okay, maybe not that one, but the methodology for measuring oxalate content is also different from institution to institution, leading to some very upset folks. People want reliable, predictable results, and the world refuses to cooperate. Can you believe the nerve? I mean, Mother Nature, where is the quality control here? Step number 2, include a good source of calcium with your meal. All right, this is gonna sound crazy, but you also need to consider the type of oxalate in your food. Some of the oxalate from our food can't be absorbed into our bodies because it's bound to calcium. It's called insoluble oxalate. The cool thing is that your body is a chemist, and it can turn regular soluble oxalate into insoluble oxalate if you eat a good source of calcium at your meal.
What?
Y'all, lots of studies confirm this. That's why it's recommended by the American Urological Association. Bottom line, folks that have low calcium diets tend to have high amounts of oxalate in their urine. To fix that, think about having milk with breakfast, maybe a little bit of yogurt with lunch, maybe some cheese with dinner. Something like that. And there's no reason to go overboard with it. Calcium is important, but overdoing it,
Please don't do that.
All right, I can hear you guys talking out there, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Kitty Cat, what do I do if I'm a vegan? Or I follow a kosher diet and I can have meat at a meal, but I can't also have dairy at that meal. Maybe you're just like me and you really need lactate kind of dairy, and that's not always easy to find. If any of those things describe you, talk to your doctor or dietitian about it. There are other things that you can do. Many foods are fortified with calcium, like fortified orange juice.
Wow.
Of course, you don't want to drink more than 4 ounces of juice at any one time. That's just a good, healthy general recommendation for everyone.
Oh no.
Milk substitutes can also be fortified with calcium.
Nice.
But we just talked about that oxalate list, including soy and almond and cashew. So if you're drinking soy milk, almond milk, or cashew milk, you might want to limit the portion size. Consider trying coconut milk, rice milk, or oat milk as substitutes. Another consideration is having a low-dose calcium supplement at the start of a meal. And I know what you're thinking. Some of you also have high calcium levels in your urine and you don't want to take a calcium supplement. But remember that when you take that calcium with the meal and it binds to oxalate, your body doesn't absorb either the oxalate or the calcium. And studies have shown that the amount of calcium in your urine, if you take a supplement with a meal, is much lower than if you take that supplement on an empty stomach. All right, so we covered step number 1, avoid the highest of the high oxalate foods. Step number 2, to include a good calcium source at each meal. Let's move on to step number 3, which is to practice moderation in protein intake. When the body breaks down protein to dispose of it, a metabolic byproduct is oxalate. In general, try to limit your meat intake to 3 to 4 ounces per meal. And for reference, 3 ounces is the size of a deck of playing cards. And then try to make one of your meals meat-free. All right, this information is for the general person. There are folks out there that need a lot more protein than that, or they need a lot less protein than that. If you're not the average Joe, talk to your doctor or dietitian first. Regardless, protein supplements like gelatin and collagen in particular result in a lot of oxalates. So if you're doing gelatin powder or gels or collagen powder or bone broth, that kind of thing, you might want to consider cutting that stuff out for a while and seeing how it impacts your urine. And all of that leads me to the 4th and final step: watch your supplements. Just like those protein supplements, collagen and gelatin can lead to a lot of body oxalate production, so can vitamin C. And I'm not talking about food sources of vitamin C. I'm not even talking about the vitamin C in your multivitamin. I mean the vitamin C that is super concentrated, that people are taking to avoid coughs and colds and that kind of thing. And many spice supplements contain a high amount of dietary oxalate, like cinnamon or turmeric. And if you're just having cinnamon or turmeric as part of your meal, you're totally fine. I'm talking about the supplement form. Ooh, beetroot powder should definitely be avoided. I know you saw beets on that high oxalate list, along with spinach. So green smoothies that have a lot of spinach in them, also big no-no. And in fact, I would avoid any kind of juicing altogether. I worry about folks that might be trying to be health conscious and they're inadvertently eating a low calcium diet because they might be avoiding dairy products. And they might be getting a lot of oxalate because they're eating fruits and vegetables and mega foods. And it ends up being the perfect storm for an oxalate stone. That's all, folks. If any of that rung a bell for you, I mean, maybe you're having bran flakes as a snack, or you're inadvertently following a low calcium diet, or you're taking collagen or beetroot powder supplements, just think about maybe not doing that for a while. Asking your doctor to repeat your 24-hour urine test and see what happens to your oxalate.
Whoa.
And I have one last bonus thing. Bacteria. That's right, gut bacteria. Isn't this the cutest bacteria you've ever seen? That's not what the one in your gut really looks like, but I thought it looked nice. Yeah, you know how I said that we're not really sure that your body's using oxalate for any reason? Well, we know that some of our healthy gut bacteria live off of oxalate. And the more of those good gut bacteria you have, the more oxalate they eat and the less oxalate that you absorb. People with low amounts of this oxalate-eating bacteria in their body tend to have high urinary oxalate. It sounds like we're discovering a missing piece of the big picture. But before you get too excited, studies on probiotics to help the body get some of that bacteria back, they're promising, but so far,
nothing's panning out.
And if you're looking for my information sources and references, see the description box below where I'll link an article that I've made on the low oxalate diet. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest research and maybe get some fabulous meal ideas and some recipes, go to my website, kidneynutritionist.com, and sign up for my free newsletter. I also offer virtual online consultations for those living within the state of Florida, so keep that in mind too.
Yes.
Until next time, y'all, stay healthy and strong. I'll see you later.